right, guys, we're coming back after our first podcast and the principle of connection creates momentum that we highlighted. And if you recall, by focusing on connection over transaction, we actually end up getting more transactions, okay? So connection over transaction leads to actually more transactions, authentic human connection. So in that podcast, I highlighted having your radar up, all right? And for these opportunities to connect with other people. Sometimes they will do a bid for connection. They don't even realize they're doing it, but they're emailing you something. And in the podcast, it was about a father who has first hunt with his daughter. She got her first doe, and he emailed back in with the photo, which was an actual real story. And we've probably had many of those. But that gentleman, whether he knew it or not, was making a bid for connection. All right, he was kind of throwing out this bid, and when that person's important to you, whether it's in your personal life and your spouse or your kids, or in this case a customer, you want to lean in to that moment. And in order to lean into that moment, you have to have your radar up to recognize that. So here's where that radar term came up for me. So I would often greet at church with my mother, who is a world-class human being and world-class church greeter on Sunday. Maybe some of you, your mom or your wife is that way too, or maybe you're that way. So anyways, I would often greet with my mom at church. And the first time, I'll never forget the first time I was greeting with her, right before we started, she kind of pulled me aside. She said, "Hey, Joe, here's the thing. In order to do this effectively, what you need to do is you need to have your radar up." And she goes, you'd watch these movies with your dad, and they're in a submarine, and you got that radar. It's going like boop, 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 and it's looking for something. It could be a torpedo, it could be another submarine, or maybe it's a radar in the jet, and it's looking for the enemy. And but she's like, in this case, your radar is up and you're looking for somebody who needs help. So you're looking for a mother coming in, and she's got one kid in, that's a toddler that's walking in. She's got a baby on her arm. That person needs help getting in the door, okay? So rather than just stand back and wait for them to struggle through both doors and then just waving and saying hi, how about you proactively go out, open up the first door, greet them there, then open up the second door, and now you just made that mother's life a little bit easier. And that's really the spirit of greeting at church. Or maybe you see an older couple come in and they pull into a handicap parking spot, and maybe the wife's getting out and she's hitting the button in the back and they're getting out a wheelchair. Hey, maybe you can race out there. You can help get out that wheelchair. And again, you can get the door for those people. I think you're hopefully kind of getting what I'm getting at here. Maybe the person's coming in, they're kind of looking around like this. Well, clearly this is probably their first time. So you can go up to that person and say, "Hey, is this your first time? Do you know where you need to go? How can I help you out?" That's having your radar up, okay? And so that is one of the first steps to be able to be effective at focusing on human connection. Because if you don't have your radar up, you're missing all of these opportunities all the time. And they're not just opportunities at church. These are opportunities in your marriage. These are opportunities with your kids. These are opportunities with your coworkers. These are opportunities with your customers. These things are happening all the time, okay? Once you move from unconscious incompetent, or maybe unconscious competent, but you bring this into the conscious realm, this idea of having my radar up for human connection, oh my goodness, you're gonna have all these opportunities to connect. The next thing I'd like to highlight here is once you have your radar up and you see all these opportunities to connect, what you're gonna notice is you're gonna notice a pattern. There's a lot of things, opportunities to connect with people. So I'm just gonna give you one example, but this is where you really need to lean into your creativity. So one of the things that we notice that really, connects people together is handwritten notes, okay? It's something that another thing that my mom had me do whenever I have a birthday party, I had to write handwritten thank you notes. And several other people here at Vortex, it was near and dear to them. So we would write handwritten thank you notes for people's birthday, coworkers, not just customers, birthdays, anniversaries, just big deals that were happening, like maybe somebody's kid just graduated. We'd always do handwritten thank you notes. And then you'd usually hear from the other person because, again, right now, that's rare. Probably wasn't rare in 1950. It's definitely rare now. So what one of our employees did was he said, hey, let's have marketing create some really great cards with different images on them, and let's put them on carousels all around the company so it's extremely easy to lean into writing a handwritten thank you note. Because as you probably know, if you want to write a handwritten thank you note, the first thing you got to do is you got to have a note. And if you don't have notes, then you got to go to Walgreens or you got to go to Hallmark if they still have those stores. I don't know. But you got to go there, and usually the whirlwind of your day is going to get in the way, and a week or two goes by and you miss the moment. By having those carousels all around the company, now it made it easy, once your radar's up and you see that, to be able to just lean in and write a handwritten thank you note. Here's one other tip, by the way, on a handwritten thank you note. Well, this is what I hear all the time, and I think it's a big excuse. So I'm telling you right now, this is a big excuse for you if it comes up. Many people say, my handwriting stinks. Nobody will understand. Nobody will understand what I actually wrote. It doesn't matter. It doesn't actually matter. What matters is you took the time to do something that took you some time. What matters is you leaned in and you made that moment with that card and that handwritten note all about them. The instant they open that note and they look at it, they don't care about your handwriting. They don't care about that at all. They care that that you thought about them. That's the point. So don't miss that. Don't let somebody else or don't let yourself use that as an excuse to not be able to lean into human connection. Now, I want to give you a couple other stories to kind of complement the one with my mom and the radar. And that is back to holding the door, okay, for somebody, because this is what happens to a lot of people when they lean into human connection. So this is years ago, and my dad would often do this to me. It might make me crazy at the time, but it really stuck with me. And so one time we're out together early on Vortex. A lot of times we would travel and go to retailers together. And one time I held the door for somebody. Okay. So I held the door for somebody. They just breeze right through. Like I don't even exist. Like I'm the doorman. Okay. And as they get through, I kind of look at him and I'm like, what the heck? He's like, are you okay? And I'm like, well, that guy didn't even say thank you. And he kind of looks at me and he's like, well, why does that matter? And I'm like, well, it's just kind of common courtesy. I open the door from the guy that should say thank you. And he's like, well, is that why you opened the door for him? Did you open the door for him so that you could get a thank you? Well, in that moment, I'll tell you what, when I was younger, I was pretty thick-headed, but I got it. I got what he meant in that moment. I don't think 100% of me did it just to get a thank you from the other person, but it might have been 50%, 40%, 60%. It was somewhere in there. He said, Joe, here's the thing. Are you the type of guy that values other people and opens the door for people? Or are you the type of guy who's going around doing that stuff looking for a thank you? So in that moment, I realized I was keeping score. I was keeping score, and I was leaning into, in that case, just opening the door so that I could just get this thank you. I could get the affirmation and validation, and I could fill up my tank and go about my day. And so what I'd ask for you guys to do when you lean in, when your radar's up and you see these bids for connection and you lean into them, stop keeping score. Make a decision. Is this the type of person you are? Is this the type of person that you want to be? Regardless of the response from the other person, okay? And again, people are going to feel that. And sometimes you're not going to get a thank you. In fact, sometimes I've had someone said, hey, I can open the door for myself, and they're kind of offended. And I usually tell them, I know, I was just trying to be nice. But the point is, make a decision on what type of person you're going to be. And if you're that type of person who doesn't need the validation, doesn't need the affirmation, and you just do it for the sheer joy of serving and connecting with another person and making them the center of that interaction, in the aggregate over time, you're going to get a lot of thank yous. You're going to get a lot of affirmation. You're going to get a lot of validation, okay? It's going to come. You need to trust that principle. Finally, what happened just real world, just literally the other day, I was sitting down at the coffee shop. I was having coffee with some bankers. I know you're super jealous that you weren't there with me. And it just randomly happened that as I'm sitting there, I'm perfectly positioned to see the door, and there's a nurse in her scrubs, and she, maybe she had broken her foot or her Achilles, but she's got one of those scooters and her foot's on it, and she's trying to get into the coffee shop, but she can't do it because she's got the hands on the handles, and she's just struggling. So anyways, I get up, I go over, I open the door, and I'm like, hey, are you okay? You need some help? So this woman's face literally transformed in front of me from kind of this stone face struggling to just this beautiful big smile. And she's like, oh my gosh, that's so nice. Thank you. Okay. And then comes in the coffee shop. Just her whole demeanor changed. I turn around and I look at these three banker guys, and their faces had changed too. They had went from just bankers, good guys, but bankers. And now all of a sudden they all have smiles on their face. And I kid you not, about 10 or 15 minutes later, there was a woman on her way out, an older woman, and she had a cart, okay, really old cart, kind of a wire cart, and she can't get out of the door. And again, this isn't because I'm Superman or anything. I just so happen to be perfectly positioned to watch the door, and I just so happen to have a mother who ingrained in me to have my radar up. And so I had an opportunity to jump up and help her out the door and kind of help her off the curb. And then, kind of away she went. I actually asked her if I could help her across the street because I really think she needed help. But she assured me she was okay and that she appreciated that. Again, I got back to the table and all the guys are smiling. And you could tell that by doing that, by leaning into connection, having my radar up, leaning into human connection and just serving somebody else, not expecting anything. These guys, they're good guys when we started at the table, but now all of a sudden they catch it, okay? They catch it. And I think that nurse catches it. It's kind of like a virus, only a good one, okay? When you lean into those moments of human connection, other people catch it. And now other people are going to take that. You send ripples out, and those ripples have all kinds of effects that you don't even know. But I would have never gotten there to help those people in the coffee shop or to help in all the ways that we do at Vortex with our customers, with our employees, if my radar wasn't up, if I wasn't consciously looking for those opportunities and then thinking, how can I lean into help? So if you're gonna take this principle to heart, and I really think you should, and again, if you need evidence, look at Vortex. Look where we started in 2002. We were almost 100 years late to sport optics, okay? And about 15 years later, we're the #1 sport optics brand from a volume perspective in the world, and we've stayed that way, and we've actually grown our market share. Okay, so if you need evidence, there it is. But if you're gonna lean into this principle, you're going to need to have your radar up. You're going to need to be looking for those bids for connection. And then that's when you lean into those things, and that's when you create momentum. Listen, guys, movements are built on connection. If this resonated, share it and join the conversation. Hit that subscribe button or check the show notes where you can follow me on all my socials. Or check out more about the movement at vortexcare.com. Let's build something rare together.